Welcome back to Founders Mental Health. Do you walk the talk? The podcast where we interview founders about their mental health and also the mental health status in entrepreneurship. I'm Paula Petcu, your host on this podcast, and today I have with me Augusta. Hi, Augusta.
Hi, Paula. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you here. And let's start by introducing you. Can you tell me more about your background, what you do, your connection to mental health, maybe?
Absolutely. So I think starting from the beginning, as you introduced, my name is Augusta. I have a very commercial background, so business through and through. Did my education at Copenhagen Business School and afterwards at INSEAD in France and Singapore. And as any young graduate out of business, I thought, consulting is the way to go. It's the only right choice for a career. So I started my career in management consulting rather quickly found out that maybe that's not the right fit for me, which was aided a teeny tiny bit, not to say a lot, with the fact that I got a concussion quite
Mm.
quickly after joining my first firm. So after recovering from that, I ended up joining a venture capital firm that invested only in mental health solutions, and that was so great. But it was just itching in me to do more. So after having been there for a bit, it was just the right timing to go out and start my own venture as well, which is also a mental health startup. So I would say these days it's very through and through mental health, like it's what I do every day. Whether mine is better or not, probably not. But it's at least something that I spend a lot of my time working on.
Yeah, you're thinking a lot about it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think you pointed out something there. Like, how is your mental health now?
So we're currently fundraising, which is, as a founder, I think always an interesting time because there's a
Yeah.
lot of, oh my god, we're soon to be not rich, but at least paid, which would be lovely. And then a lot of, no, this is not gonna work out. So it's a fun journey, emphasizing fun in a weird way.
Hmm.
I think me and my team, we're handling it quite well. We try to be very positive about it, and we go into every conversation with an open mind, but expecting the worst, so to say. So these days is as any other job, like my job is to fundraise, and that's fine. And some of the deals will close, some of them will not. But I think we try to have a very healthy approach about what is related to us as individuals and what's related to either the company or factors outside of our control. So we don't take it too close to heart if we get a no.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's pretty key these days.
yeah. Is having worked before in a VC focused on mental health helping you in any way with the fundraising now?
I think it for sure helps to have worked on the VC side because
Hmm.
it brought me an understanding early on about both how impersonal a no is. As when I was sitting in VC, I had to say no all the time. And it wasn't because of the startup, it was most often because I didn't have the capacity or we just invested in something similar or something like that. So I think knowing both from the VC perspective that a no is rarely personal, it's most often timing. And
Hmm.
on the flip side, also, what do I require from startups when they fundraise helps me to put together, all the material and all the information that I know the VCs want. So it has for sure helped. I don't think it helped necessarily on the mental health side. I think it's tough either way,
Yeah,
both as a VC and a founder. Like it's a lot of great conversations and a lot of difficult decisions. So, but professionally, it helped for sure.
yeah, yeah. Any tips or tricks for other founders out there? What they should know in this journey from the VC perspective?
I think fundraising from the VC perspective, first of all, like as in any call, it's also much about creating a good relationship.
Mm.
If mirror the person you're sitting in front of, if you can see they're having a a day that's a bit stressful, then that's maybe not the day where you go on Turbo Talk. Check in with them, how they prefer to have their information presented, follow up, because half the time you will be forgotten. And again, it's not personal, it's just a very busy day and it's a very busy job. So just because you had one call doesn't mean that you're top of mind. And mistakes happen. And I sometimes have emails like also today where all of a sudden it's been a week and I haven't replied, and it's not on purpose and I try to avoid it. But, keep them updated, keep it human, so to say. I think that's a really good first start.
I like it. Keep it human.
No, but I mean, at the end of the day, like everyone is just people. So if you meet someone in a call, it might be super intimidating. Had you met them in a bar, you might have thought, okay, wow, this is a very weird person. So it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
about the
yeah.
context.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And can you tell me more about your startup?
Absolutely. So my startup is called Aisel. It's currently me and my two co-founders, Christian and Avigat, and then we have two medical students also supporting us. And we say we do mental health tech. So we do predictive analytics for mental health diagnosis, assessment, and treatment, which means in practice, if you go to the doctor, we'll be able to say, based on you as an individual, what's the most effective way of treating you, beyond just the disease or the illness that you might have, but you based on how you grew up, your personal characteristics, and so on. And furthermore, we also have, it's not a therapist AI assistant, but it's like an extended arm of the therapist, which is AI, to keep the patients engaged while they're having a course with a therapist. Because without knowing whether you or the listeners have tried therapy, you typically go once every 2 weeks, and then there's this period in between where you're not really supported and you're sort of waiting. And especially if you are suffering with something that takes a big toll on your everyday life, you need some tools in between. And that's also the bridge that we come in and help out with.
Mhm. So in between the therapy sessions and also more objective measurements of
Exactly.
that? Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. So we'll check in to make sure that you've done your journaling or the homework that you've done, and to remind you of upcoming sessions, to be there with you, so to say, when you don't have your therapist nearby.
Mhm.
And all the data we collect from that, we use to assess for the next person who looks like you, hey, what actually worked, so that the next person can become better even quicker.
Amazing. And what stage are you at?
We're starting our pilots here on the other side of the summer vacation. So
Mhm.
we're looking forward to collaborating with some really cool clinics to see how they're liking the product. And of course, it's, I think, the first couple of years in a startup, it's always a bit chaotic and a bit like, okay, where are we going? So I'm saying this is what we do today. But after the pilot, it might be that we're emphasizing a different bit of it. So hopefully we'll get a lot of learnings from starting that out, and we're very excited to see how it goes. So if there's any psychologists or clinics on the listening, please do reach out if you want to try it and be part of the pilot. We're very excited to begin it.
Super nice. And you mentioned the summer, and I guess in Denmark, in now you're in London, but I don't know if it's the same there, but July is so quiet, right?
We have really tried to push, and it's not just customers, it's investors, it's everyone. They're like, yeah, we can speak in August.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, we're spending July really looking inward and being 100% aligned on, us as a company, what's the direction, what's the roadmap, here's the product, and like really looking at that like more introverted work,
Mhm.
so that we can just hit the ground running in August. Because we know right now if we're calling someone, they're gonna be like, "Get back to me in August."
Yes, yeah, exactly. If they even reply, if you don't get the
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
office,
exactly. I
yeah.
think a little tip is probably to try to schedule your work around the different countries that you're interacting with. So, at least for me, I was speaking to investors and customers both from Denmark, the UK, Germany, and France. And France, for example, they only vacation in August. So they're
Aha.
there right now. And the same thing in London. Like there's a few people still not out for vacation yet. So it's a little bit more possible. And then when August comes around, we can focus on Denmark and then we can let France have their summer vacation.
Ah,
So
interesting.
yeah, we try to like at least have that in mind in our discussions.
And you're now in London. You're from Denmark, so you moved there for a bit, and you're working remotely with your team, right? So we were chatting a bit before the podcast recording started. How is that, and how is that impacting the communication, the mental health, your daily work, and everything?
So I think working remotely comes with pros and cons. The pro for me now for sure is I can be on the ground in London, which is UK is one of our target markets, both for investors and customers. So we learn a lot from me being here. I think you need to be very careful with remote work. So what we do at least is that we agreed that I'm in Denmark once every like 4 or 6 weeks, then I'll do a full week from Denmark. We also try to, if everyone is in the same city, then we all go there. So, for example, me and my CTO were both in Berlin not too long ago, and then Christian, our CPO, he flew down just because, hey, there's an option here for all of us to be
Yeah.
together. So I think we try to be mindful of saying that we have a week or XYZ to work together day to day, we are very good at those like small chit chat calls. So sometimes I just call up my co-founder just to vent or
Mhm.
to
Yes.
like, yeah, yeah, as you do, or get like a little bit of tips or insights or feedback on random tasks a bit more impulsively. So I
Yeah.
think open up your day to having those like random impulsive check-ins in the same way as you would if you worked the same place. Then you also would disturb someone over coffee, and we do the same. So I
Mhm.
think that works quite nicely. I think for many people, the remote work, especially being in a new city, can lead to a lot of loneliness apropos mental health. In that regard, I find myself to have been lucky because I have a co-working space where I can go and I have my flatmates. So I set up routines that allow me to have daily check-ins and daily interactions with someone, which for me does a lot. And it's okay that it's not my team because, sometimes it's if what I want feedback on is how does this meal sound, I can also ask a person sitting next to me, which
Yes.
is okay. So for sure, create an environment where you both have check-ins often with your team, but also with yourself.
And yeah, the founder's journey is an emotional roller coaster, as you mentioned, with ups and downs. And do you have any tools in your toolbox that you've learned over time that work well in terms of handling this emotional challenges?
I think the first tip, especially when you are a founder, so after you made the decision to leave, keep in mind that it's still just a job. It might be your business and it might be your vision, but it's still just a job. So don't take everything that happens to the company as a direct reflection of you as a person. Keep some sort of distance. I know a lot of founders say that their business is their baby and it's everything. And that statement I actually very much disagree with. I understand the concept of it because for sure I want to grow this baby to be a well functioning independent company that can just run itself. But at the end of the day, it is a job.
Mhm.
And I think having that just teeny tiny disconnect and knowing, hey, there are days where it's not the most important thing. If someone gets sick, if someone needs you, if you have a family obligation, well, then there must be some sort of separation. And
Yeah.
it's so hard separating it when it's the first thing you think about when you wake up, the last thing you
Yes.
think about when you go to bed, the first thing you bring up when you're meeting new people. And every time something mention anything that is remotely related to you, you're like, oh, but you can maybe come help me. Uh,
Yes.
it's it's very life consuming, but still, like I think it's important to know that there are what you do at work and there's
Mhm.
who you are as a person. So finding ways to detach yourself, whether it's hobbies or going out with dinner, being very active in scheduling time out, I think is super important.
Yeah, yeah. It's as you're saying that, like, it's important to do this, but I know it, but it's so difficult, right? In practice, like knowing
Sure.
something is it's not the same as like, okay, I'm just gonna implement it. Because it's so much of your identity, and you said you spend so much time on it. Uh, it's
I mean, you created it most often.
yeah,
Like, even as an early employee, you're part of shaping what is the company. So it's a lot. Like, it's
yeah.
you bringing your brain to life to some sense.
Yeah, yeah. And there are just so many tasks as well. So you feel like, "Oh, okay, starting the day, immediately the thoughts on like all the follow-ups that you need to do and everything. It's
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think another tip that I found super helpful, especially now that it's my primary job is startup founder, because I've done startups before, but it was not my full-time job. Now that it's my full-time job, I really found having like a body in the ecosystem to be helpful.
Yeah.
That can be your co-founder, but I think sometimes it's also good to have someone who's not your co-founder,
Mhm.
because then you don't talk about work, you also talk about other things, and you share your experiences and your journey and your ups and downs, but in a way where it doesn't every day impact what you're supposed to do tomorrow. So for
Yeah.
me, I have a friend of mine who's also in startup, and I'll call her up and be super angry about if I'm never angry, but like if a VC backed out, I could be annoyed or I could be excited or
Yeah.
something in that. And it's nice to have a person who's going through the same thing, but not the exact same thing
Mm.
with the exact same company. And again, try to find your ways to also breathe air that is not only your company, but that will fuel your energy that you can bring back to your company, I think is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the community. Yeah. Very important. And hopefully we can build something here together through this podcast as well.
Sure. For sure, and I think I'm sure you have the same experience, but I have found at least that the startup community, it's so very open and
Yes.
everyone is very helpful and very supportive because everyone is in these small teams, at least if you're early stage. So, you need some more colleagues and some more day-to-day interactions. So you find that a lot at events or meetups or dinners with other founders. And I think it's super lovely. Now I feel that I have 2,000 colleagues rather than like 200. So
Nice, nice.
that way it's nice. Okay, that's like that's maybe taking it a step too far, but a lot at
Yeah,
least.
I get it. I get it. And how is it in London compared to Copenhagen in terms of the meetups and interactions and startups?
I think there's a lot of formal things going on. So, in the sense that there's always an event you can go to.
Uh-huh.
So, whether it's a running club or a poker night, I know there's a group over here. I haven't been yet, but they organize VC founder poker every Wednesday, and you can just show up. I'm not sure whether I'm comfortable enough losing my money yet, but that's, for example, something that I think I'm gonna try out soon. So I think there's a lot of stuff happening, also a bit more formalized. Whereas I
Mhm.
think in Denmark you have more informal meetups
Yeah.
because it's a smaller community. But over here, you formalize it a bit more. Also, I'm new to the city, so I'm still to find those informal places. I'm sure there are tons. Um, but I think there's a lot of formal stuff as well going on, and I have at least found to meet people that I have met afterwards again, or that I would
Mhm.
want to stay in touch with. So I think
Mhm.
it's an open system, a bit busier in the sense that a lot of stuff is going on, and sometimes it's 45 minutes away, which is why I sometimes skip out on it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. But
Yeah.
because of the business, you also, apropos mental health, need to be aware of not saying yes to everything and also keeping in mind when do I need a day just to work or to lay on the couch or to not
Mhm.
speak to a single human person.
Yeah. Do you take the weekends off?
And the silence. So, um, I don't take, I don't have a set rule to take the weekends
Mm.
off. So I think it depends on where I'm at and what I'm doing. So I'm very good in organizing like small trips in the
Hmm.
weekends where I go somewhere else. So
Nice.
that's at least very helpful for me. Like this Saturday, for I was in London just, but I had, I was meeting friends for brunch and I was meeting friends for watching the football game in the evening. So I packed myself with social interactions so that I would be off.
Hmm.
That said, I still end up in conversations with some of my friends who are also in startup around fundraising and startup. So it's not that it's completely away,
Yeah.
but I do try to not push meetings or work to the weekends. It's not always possible, but I try to at least take one day where I'm not looking at a computer whatsoever.
Hmm. I think that's a good practice. Yeah. And even though you can't disconnect completely, like doing another activity helps so much, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the key. Like, do an activity away, like, go somewhere, force yourself to do something else and reload the social batteries or the creative batteries
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
you might need.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Sometimes I find myself like forgetting what day it is because everything goes like according to my calendar, what's next because I'm fully booked and so on. And like weekend or like weekday, it's a kind of a blend. So you ask me like what day is today, sometimes I have to
I don't
look.
know. I know that feeling very well. I had it the other day. I was coming home from work and I was like, "Oh shit, like I had a meeting. Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" And then like I look at my phone, the meeting is the next day. Like, and I thought I forgot it. And I found myself not even remembering how I got to work. And that's when I decided, okay, tomorrow you work from home.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow you need to like breathe a bit, work from home, not have people around you. Because if I cannot remember how I got to work or what day it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
I need to pause for a second
That's a
and
good
just,
signal.
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
I don't think we're promoting a very healthy way of building startups. I don't think it's that bad. I think we're just pulling up some good examples. The good thing is, if you're sick, then you can take the day off without asking a boss. And if
Yes.
you wanna go to the hairdresser, you can do that without asking a boss. So,
Yeah,
pros
yeah,
and
there are a
cons.
lot of advantages, right? On the flexibility side, you're your own boss. You're doing what you love, right? And you can take these days off, but I guess it requires some discipline
Yeah.
and self-awareness on where you are, identifying the signals of like, okay, I don't know what day it is, or yeah, I had a moment to be honest where I decided to take a day off and I didn't know what I should do. And it's crazy.
That's
Like, of course, there are
honestly,
so many activities to do and so on, but my brain was kind of locked in this like, okay, it's work, work, work. Now what?
I think that's when hobbies come in to be
Yes.
good again, like detaching yourself. Like I paint, for example. So, I always know if I have an afternoon or an evening or something, I don't know what I need to do, either going to a gallery or sitting down with my sketchbook and just immersing myself into that. So like I have that default thing to
There
do
we go.
so I don't
There we
have
go.
to reinvent like how will I be fun today?
Yes, yeah. Very good examples. Drawing. I decided at that moment that I want to do pizzas. You know, you can
Yes,
buy the pizza bund, the dough, and then you can be creative on top. So there
absolutely.
you
Yes.
go.
Yeah. No, I think it's ups and downs. Like it's hard to disconnect, but at the same time, I think the reason that it's also hard to disconnect is because you're doing something that you genuinely love to do. And
Yeah.
speaking to my parents, for example, that's also what they keep because they know me for my whole life, obviously.
Mm.
What they keep saying is like, you might be broke and you might, work a lot. But what we're hearing is that you're loving what you do. That's what you come home and say every
Yeah.
time we speak. So I think having that, especially if you know what it's like to do a job that you don't love, it's the world to difference. Like half the time, it doesn't feel like work.
Amazing. I love that. I get goosebumps when you say that because like it feels so real. I can see your passion, but also it's like, I mean, we talked about a lot of negative things and it's difficult and so on, but I really love this like,
Ending it on a
oh,
high note. It's
yes,
worth it.
exactly, exactly. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
If you are a psychologist or a clinic that would like to be part of our pilot, please do reach out. And otherwise, if you're considering doing startup or founding something, just biggest recommendation. It's although it sounds like a very stressful life, given just now discussion, it's absolutely worth it to work with something that you're passionate with.
Amazing. And where can people find you?
They can write me at Augusta at aisel.co or LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Augusta.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me.